The Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. Now on that same day, 2 disciples were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him." Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to one another, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days? Probably not. Probably not even close. Crucifixion happened a lot. It wasn't exactly a remarkable or noteworthy occurrence. Even if word had spread that quickly, even if this random stranger did know the particulars, it would have hardly merited a second thought, except as a staunch warning of what the empire's police state was capable of. But for these 2 traveling companions, their grief was real. Their disappointment is real. Their despair is real. Their fear is real. As they walk along trying to make sense of all these things that had happened in so short a span of time. Theirs is hardly an Easter world. Theirs is a Holy Saturday world. Jesus is dead and the tomb is sealed. The end. Of course, in Luke's version of the resurrection story, Jesus hasn't even shown up yet. It was only those two mysterious men, maybe angels, in dazzling clothes, who show up to greet/terrify the women at the tomb earlier that same day. There's nothing beyond the word of these two men, maybe angels, to suggest that Jesus has risen. For these two disciples on the Emmaus road, Jesus is at worst still dead, or at best missing. Their hopes are dashed, all the promises they had staked their lives on, gone. Worse yet, the tomb is empty and Jesus' body is missing, just when it seems like things couldn't possibly unravel anymore. Where's the good news in that? Walking along in a fog of grief, a stranger appears. What are you talking about? Can you imagine? Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know? Probably not. Jesus' first post-resurrection appearance is not a grand or showy moment, but a moment of quiet accompaniment and curiosity. What are you talking about? It's an invitation for them to tell their story, to name their grief, to process what they're experiencing, to feel what they feel without discounting it or trying to explain it away. There is power in naming grief out loud like that. This past week, as I attended the aforementioned super nerdy Institute of Liturgical Studies, I got to hear in person from one of my own personal theological heroes, Debbie Thomas. She's practically the free space on my homiletical bingo card. In Thomas's workshop, she encouraged us, particularly those of us who preach, but more widely, those of us in the church, to reclaim the practice of lament, of taking seriously those moments where everything is not okay, and naming those moments out loud, honestly. Now, there are, of course, myriad impediments to lament in the church. It's too faithless, too emotional, too despairing, among a multitude of other reasons. But what if, Thomas encouraged us to consider in her workshop, what if the permission to lament is a relief? What if the good news includes lament? After all, the resurrected Christ had scars, as we heard in last week's story. What if we made space for the honesty of Holy Saturday, the space of already not yet, where we spend so much of our lives? Lament can be a gift, neither denying the reality of the hard stuff, nor offering easy or quick fixes or false hope. Lament, when given its space, can be a powerful thing, the first language of the church, as Thomas puts it, but also not its final language. Lament, when allowed to run its course in honesty, can push back against helplessness, proclaiming a trust in the God of the small things, along the road, around a table, breaking bread, inviting dialogue and questions. Here's the good news that I hear this day. Jesus invites these traveling companions to name their grief and loss. He doesn't seem to care that they don't immediately recognize him or can't recognize the presence of God in their midst at this specific moment when grief and trauma keep them from seeing clearly. Jesus is with them anyway, already a blessing in the walking on the road, in the listening, in the grief, in the despair, in the disappointment. Emmaus is an honest resurrection story, as, you guessed it, Debbie Thomas notes in an earlier commentary on this text from 6 years ago. I'm grateful, she says, that the journey includes or continues into Easter evening, when hope is possible but not yet realized. I'm grateful that even the road to Emmaus, the road of brokenness, the road of failure, is a sacred road, a road that Jesus walks, a road that honors our deep disappointments, even as it holds out possibilities of nourishment and revelation. Emmaus is an honest resurrection story for our Holy Saturdays, those spaces of already, not yet, those in-between spaces where we spend so much of our lives. Emmaus is an honest resurrection story that holds our grief, makes space for our lament, invites our questions, even validates our anger. Emmaus is an honest resurrection story where it's okay to not be okay. And where all of a sudden we recognize the risen Jesus has been there all along, alongside us on the way.